For years, Lisa Kennedy Montgomery, known widely simply as Kennedy, occupied a distinctive space within the American media landscape. A former MTV VJ who evolved into a sharp-edged political commentator, she built a career defined by wit, libertarian conviction, and a refusal to conform neatly to partisan expectations. Her presence on Fox News and Fox Business was unmistakable. Sardonic yet composed, irreverent yet analytically disciplined. Then, almost imperceptibly, she seemed to recede. There was no dramatic farewell, no public rupture, only a gradual absence that prompted speculation. Viewers noticed. Questions circulated. What had happened to Kennedy? The answer, as is often the case with public figures, lies not in a single event but in a convergence of personal transformation and professional recalibration. Kennedy's trajectory over the past several years reflects not decline but evolution, a deliberate reshaping of her public identity amid divorce, career restructuring, and ideological consistency in a rapidly shifting media environment. Her personal life underwent significant change long before audiences fully registered her professional shifts. Kennedy married former professional snowboarder Dave Lee in 2000, and together they cultivated a partnership that remained largely shielded from tabloid spectacle. In an industry where exposure often substitutes for intimacy, the couple maintained discretion. They raised two daughters, Pelle Valentina and Lotus Kennedy, while Kennedy balanced motherhood with an increasingly demanding television career. Despite her on-air candor, she preserved a boundary around her family life, allowing only curated glimpses through social media. After 17 years of marriage, the relationship quietly ended in 2017. Notably, Kennedy did not publicly announce the divorce at the time. The confirmation came years later, almost incidentally, when viewers noticed the absence of her wedding ring and she responded matter-of-factly in a comment. The understated nature of the revelation was consistent with her broader approach to privacy. Transparency without spectacle, honesty without exhibitionism. In the aftermath of the divorce, Kennedy and Lee appeared to prioritize collaborative co-parenting. There was no public acrimony, no performative blame. Instead, the emphasis remained on stability for their daughters. This approach reveals an often overlooked dimension of Kennedy's persona. Beneath the combative energy of cable news lies a disciplined commitment to personal responsibility. Her libertarian principles, self-governance, autonomy, accountability, seem to extend beyond political theory into the architecture of her family life. Years later, in a rare moment of personal openness, Kennedy announced her engagement during a live broadcast of The Five in December 2025. The revelation was playful and unscripted, complete with an anecdote about meeting her fiancé unexpectedly when elevator doors opened. The tone was emblematic of Kennedy's style, irreverent yet sincere. Unlike the silence that surrounded her divorce, this announcement signaled renewal. It suggested not a retreat from public life but a reconfiguration of it. Parallel to these personal developments was a significant professional shift. The cancellation of her Fox Business program, Kennedy, in June 2023 after an 8-year run. The decision emerged amid broader programming adjustments and ratings recalibration within cable news. Her 7 p.m. time slot was replaced with expanded airings of a higher-rated business program, reflecting the economic imperatives that increasingly shape broadcast decisions. For Kennedy, however, the end of her show did not signify erasure. Her farewell episode was marked by gratitude and collegial solidarity rather than bitterness. She acknowledged the journey, thanked viewers, and underscored the collaborative nature of the production. If anything, the cancellation highlighted a tension intrinsic to cable news. Individuality must coexist with ratings pragmatism. Kennedy's brand, culturally literate, libertarian, and sometimes contrarian, occupied a narrower niche than more conventional partisan programming. Rather than withdrawing, she diversified. She remained a panelist on Fox News programs such as Outnumbered and The Five, preserving her visibility within the network ecosystem. Simultaneously, she expanded her podcast, Kennedy Saves the World, transitioning it into a daily format that allowed for deeper exploration of political and cultural themes. In the digital age, such a shift is less a demotion than a redistribution of influence. Podcasts offer autonomy and ideological nuance that the constraints of cable segments often compress. Her move into print journalism further exemplified this recalibration. Joining the Daily Mail as a columnist in 2024, Kennedy extended her commentary into written analysis. The transition from broadcast to text is not merely logistical, it alters rhetorical cadence. Writing demands sustained argumentation rather than soundbite clarity. In this medium, Kennedy's libertarian commitments, skepticism of state overreach, defense of free markets, advocacy for personal autonomy, could unfold with greater complexity. Indeed, Kennedy's ideological evolution remains central to understanding her career. Though she once identified strongly with Republican politics, speaking at the 1996 Republican National Convention, she gradually distanced herself from partisan orthodoxy. Disillusionment with social conservatism and expansive government intervention led her toward libertarianism. Today she identifies as unaffiliated, underscoring a preference for principle over party. This ideological independence has often manifested in on-air tensions. Kennedy's willingness to challenge guests, including high-profile political figures, illustrates her commitment to scrutiny over solidarity. Her confrontational exchange with Rudy Giuliani in 2020, for instance, underscored her refusal to endorse unverified claims uncritically. Similarly, debates with fellow hosts over military interventions or civil liberties reveal her divergence from more hawkish or statist perspectives. Yet it would be reductive to frame these moments as feuds. Rather, they reflect the friction inherent in genuine intellectual independence within a partisan media ecosystem. Kennedy's political identity resists neat categorization. She supports free markets and privatization while also defending same-sex marriage and criticizing aspects of the war on drugs. She is as critical of bureaucratic expansion under Republican administrations as she is under Democratic ones. This ideological elasticity, rooted in libertarian thought, distinguishes her within a network often perceived as monolithic. Beyond politics, Kennedy's life contains layers that complicate her public persona. Long before cable news, she emerged from the cultural crucible of 1990s alternative music. As host of MTV's Alternative Nation, she became a recognizable face of Generation X counterculture. Her on-air style, irreverent, conversational, culturally literate, reflected the ethos of the era's music scene. Bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam were not merely programming elements. They formed part of a broader cultural rebellion against institutional conformity. This early immersion in music and media shaped her communicative style. Unlike traditional news anchors, Kennedy retains a performer's rhythm and a DJ's improvisational instinct. Her commentary often carries echoes of punk skepticism, distrust of authority, impatience with orthodoxy, and a refusal to take power at face value. The MTV years were not an aberration before politics, they were foundational. Her extracurricular pursuits further illuminate the coherence of her character. A dedicated triathlete, Kennedy channels discipline into endurance sports, a practice she has linked partly to family health experiences and her own diagnosis with celiac disease. Physical rigor, dietary mindfulness, and structured training regimes mirror the self-discipline embedded in her political philosophy. Autonomy, for Kennedy, is not abstract, it is embodied. She also sustains creative outlets, playing guitar, painting, embracing vintage fashion, suggesting that her identity is not exhausted by commentary. These pursuits complicate the caricature of the cable pundit. They reveal a multidimensional figure whose intellectual and physical pursuits coexist with familial devotion and ideological engagement. Thus, Kennedy's apparent disappearance from her nightly show becomes less a story of decline and more one of transition. Cable television, once the apex of political influence, now competes with podcasts, digital columns, and fragmented audiences. Kennedy has not retreated. She has redistributed her presence across platforms that permit greater autonomy and creative control. Her divorce did not dismantle her public identity. The cancellation of her show did not silence her voice. Instead, these events marked inflection points, moments in which private resilience and professional adaptability converged. The woman who once embodied MTV's alternative rebellion now navigates political commentary with comparable independence. If there is a through line in Kennedy's story, it is this: she resists confinement. Whether challenging party orthodoxy, redefining her career after cancellation, or reconstructing her personal life after divorce, she demonstrates a consistent commitment to self-authorship. In an era defined by performative outrage and rigid tribalism, her brand of skeptical libertarianism occupies a precarious but distinctive niche. The question, then, is not what happened to Lisa Kennedy Montgomery. The more precise inquiry is how she has chosen to evolve. Her journey illustrates the fluidity of modern media careers and the endurance of ideological identity amid institutional change. Rather than fading, she has recalibrated, shifting mediums, redefining priorities, and sustaining a voice shaped by autonomy, discipline, and cultural memory. The visible transitions in Lisa Kennedy Montgomery's public and private life. Part 2 must grapple with the structural forces that made those transitions inevitable. Kennedy's evolution cannot be separated from the broader transformation of American media, where cable news has shifted from information delivery to identity performance, and where commentators are increasingly pressured to embody ideological archetypes rather than independent thinkers. Kennedy has never fit comfortably into archetype. Within the ecosystem of Fox News and Fox Business, ideological clarity is often rewarded, but ideological rigidity is more predictable. Kennedy's libertarianism, skeptical of centralized power whether exercised by Democrats or Republicans, places her in a liminal position. She is aligned enough with conservative economic principles to remain within the network's orbit, yet socially and philosophically independent enough to disrupt partisan comfort. This tension has both defined and constrained her. The cancellation of Kennedy in 2023 illustrates how market logic supersedes intellectual niche. Cable networks increasingly consolidate around ratings-efficient programming, content that delivers consistent demographic engagement and advertiser stability. Kennedy's blend of cultural commentary, libertarian critique, and humor appealed to a specific audience but did not generate the mass viewership commanded by more traditional economic or partisan programs. In that sense, her show's conclusion was less ideological rejection than industrial calculation. Yet Kennedy's response reveals a crucial aspect of her professional identity: adaptability without capitulation. Rather than recalibrating her beliefs to chase broader approval, she diversified her platforms. The expansion of her podcast into a daily format represents more than continuation. It marks a reclamation of voice. Podcasts, unlike cable segments, permit extended reasoning, tonal flexibility, and freedom from time slot compression. In this space, Kennedy's skepticism toward government expansion, surveillance, and regulatory overreach can unfold with nuance rather than confrontation. Her move into print journalism deepens this intellectual autonomy. Writing for an international digital platform allows her to situate American political debates within a broader global context. The written word, unlike broadcast debate, slows the tempo. It demands structural argument rather than rhetorical agility. Kennedy's columns thus function as ideological essays, articulations of libertarian thought applied to contemporary crises, elections, and cultural disputes. Importantly, Kennedy's libertarianism is not merely economic. It is cultural. Her defense of same-sex marriage, critique of the war on drugs, and skepticism toward moral legislation position her at odds with segments of traditional conservatism. At the same time, her resistance to expansive welfare systems and regulatory frameworks distances her from progressive statism. This dual resistance has produced moments of friction on panel shows, where ideological alignment is often assumed rather than interrogated. These tensions, however, should not be misread as instability. Rather, they demonstrate consistency. Kennedy's philosophical through line, limited government, personal accountability, voluntary association, has remained intact even as political climates shifted. What changes is not her principle but its reception. In eras of heightened polarization, independent positions are frequently mistaken for betrayal. Her earlier career in music television provides a useful interpretive lens. The alternative rock movement of the 1990s, whose artist she once introduced nightly, was defined by suspicion of authority and resistance to homogenization. Kennedy's political persona echoes that ethos. Her skepticism toward institutional narratives, whether governmental or media-driven, resembles the countercultural posture she inhabited at MTV. The aesthetic has matured. The impulse persists. There is also a gendered dimension to Kennedy's career arc. Female commentators in cable news are often subjected to heightened scrutiny regarding tone, appearance, and personal life. Kennedy's refusal to soften her sarcasm or dilute her intellectual assertiveness complicates expectations of agreeable femininity. Her divorce, handled privately, resisted the tabloid impulse to convert personal upheaval into spectacle. Her engagement announcement, conversely, was offered on her own terms: humorous, controlled, unsentimental. This management of visibility reflects a sophisticated understanding of media economies. Kennedy does not reject publicity, she curates it. She withholds when silence protects autonomy and reveals when revelation reinforces narrative agency. In doing so, she models a form of public life that neither collapses into oversharing nor retreats into opacity. Ultimately, Kennedy's trajectory underscores a central paradox of modern commentary. Independence is both asset and liability. It differentiates a voice in a crowded landscape, yet it resists easy branding. Her career, therefore, should not be measured solely by time slots or ratings but by ideological continuity across platforms. Whether on cable panels, in podcast monologues, or in written columns, Kennedy persists as a commentator who privileges skepticism over allegiance. Lisa Kennedy Montgomery's current standing cannot be understood solely through the lens of career milestones or personal events. It is best approached as a reflection of broader shifts in media, culture, and political discourse. Her continued relevance stems not from visibility alone but from her consistent exercise of intellectual autonomy within an environment increasingly dominated by polarization and performative allegiance. Kennedy's libertarianism remains central to her professional and personal identity. It informs her skepticism toward government overreach, her commitment to individual agency, and her critical perspective on institutional authority. These principles extend beyond commentary. Her disciplined lifestyle, athletic pursuits, and privacy in family matters exemplify a philosophy rooted in self-governance and personal responsibility. Autonomy, for Kennedy, is both a political position and a way of life. Her appearances on panel shows like The Five and Outnumbered illustrate her ability to navigate the tension between dissent and collaboration. Unlike commentators who rely on ideological conformity for approval, Kennedy engages in debate that interrogates conventional wisdom without alienating allies or colleagues. This liminal space, between predictability and independence, demands intellectual agility and underscores her role as a moderating yet provocative presence in cable media. The cancellation of her Fox Business program in 2023 underscores the structural pressures shaping her career. Ratings-driven consolidation favored more broadly appealing shows, and Kennedy's niche, combining cultural insight and libertarian critique, was not commercially prioritized. Yet rather than diminishing her influence, the shift prompted a strategic diversification. Her podcast, Kennedy Saves the World, transitioned to a daily format, providing a platform for sustained, nuanced discussion. Similarly, her move into print with the Daily Mail allowed her commentary to reach an international audience and explore complex political, cultural, and economic issues beyond the constraints of broadcast time slots. Kennedy's career evolution reflects not only adaptation to changing media but also an enduring commitment to consistency in principle. Her ideological maturation, from youthful Republican engagement to unaffiliated libertarian independence, reveals a trajectory shaped by reasoned evaluation rather than expedience. This philosophical continuity, maintained across mediums and decades, distinguishes her from peers whose identities are more reactive to audience or party pressures. Her personal life mirrors this approach to consistency and autonomy. Kennedy's divorce, handled privately, contrasts with the tabloid-driven spectacle often associated with celebrity. Her later engagement, announced publicly yet playfully, demonstrates selective transparency, revealing personal developments on her terms. This management of visibility reflects an understanding of media dynamics that balances public engagement with personal sovereignty. Kennedy's early career in MTV's Alternative Nation offers an illuminating precedent for her political persona. The program's embrace of alternative music, irreverent humor, and cultural skepticism echoes the ethos of her current commentary. Questioning authority, challenging orthodoxy, and privileging independent judgment. Her trajectory shows that the skills of cultural mediation, improvisation, and critical analysis cultivated in entertainment can translate into political commentary, especially in a media landscape that prizes personality as much as expertise. In sum, Kennedy's evolution is a study in adaptive continuity. She has navigated divorce, professional transition, and the shifting tides of media without compromising her principles or public voice. Each stage, MTV VJ, cable host, podcaster, columnist, represents recalibration rather than retreat. Her story demonstrates that influencing contemporary media is less about permanence in a single platform than about the durability of a coherent voice. Ultimately, Lisa Kennedy Montgomery exemplifies a model of public life in which personal and professional sovereignty coexist with engagement, adaptability, and principled dissent. Her career offers insight into how commentators can maintain intellectual independence, navigate structural shifts in media, and sustain long-term relevance without sacrificing core identity. In her journey, the interplay of autonomy, resilience, and thoughtful reinvention emerges as both defining feature and enduring legacy.